People of Reddit who have gone through or are going through cancer, what was the first sign that made you go to the doctor? Attention. Serious tag notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an AMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I'm a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit /message/compose/ to /r/askreddit if you have any questions or concerns. I was fooling around in a mall as a kid. So my dad grabbed me by the neck to make me behave. He felt a lump on my neck and immediately began to get nervous. We went to the doctor the next day, caught the cancer before it spread, and was able to surgically remove it about a month later. Got super lucky. My sister noticed a small painful lump in her breast shortly after having her second child. Doctor diagnosed a blocked mammary gland. A couple weeks later it still wasn't gone. Again doc said blocked gland. Months later it's still not gone, and she insists on getting a second opinion. Stage 3 breast cancer. Double mastectomy immediately followed by months of agonizing radiation and chemo, only to find out it's now stage 4. She's been stable for a few years, but now it's spreading again, and we don't know how long we have her. Trying to be as positive as possible. My 33-year-old husband was diagnosed with inoperable glioblastoma, most aggressive brain cancer, in January 2019, when he was 31. What caused him to get a check was persistent headache that didn't go away with paracetamols and sleep. We discovered the tumors after taking an MRI. Needless to say, our lives were changed forever. Now we are at the end of our journey, and it's been a harrowing experience for me as his wife and caregiver. It's a lonely journey. I don't wish it upon anyone, and no one has any idea what glioblastoma is like unless they have gone through it. The median survival time is 14 to 18 months. We are on our 18th month now, and given days/weeks left. Every day is a gift, and I'm glad I get to be holding his hands every day, even if he's resting and sleeping most of the time. As long as he is not in pain, and that the morphine patches are working, that is fine by me. I can't handle him going through any more pain. Edit. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, giving me strength and support, and I'm so blessed to even be receiving all of your kindness. It's such a touchy subject, and I'm hurt all the time, but you guys being so kind really makes me cry happy tears. I'm so touched. I don't know how to describe it, but I feel a little bit lifted. And that's more than I can ask for from the internet. My husband, Victor, would have been so grateful to know that he is loved and supported by more people than he thought he was. Thank you. Edit. The 2nd of August. Victor has passed away yesterday, on the 1st of August, 7:43 p.m. Swedish time. He was surrounded by his brother and me, and smiled a lot to the very end. At his final resting position, his face looked relaxed, and a little smile can be seen by us too. I'm still in shock, processing what has happened to us. I'll take the time I need to process this and grieve. I just miss my husband. I miss his laughs. I miss his smile. I feel loved. I know I'm loved. So that's keeping me together. Thank you so much for your kind support, even though we are strangers on the internet. I'm both saddened and moved by the generosity of others to offer support, love, and to bear their personal pain related to GBM/cancer/loss in general. Thank you. May Victor find peace. I know he's not in pain now. Funnily enough, it was a totally unrelated lump. Nope, that lump is fine. Just a lipoma. However, we found another lump in the corner of yours, Ray, and we need to biopsy it. My head and neck area became very swollen. At first I thought I was just getting fat, so I worked out a lot and ate better. This did not help. I also went to a local clinic, and they thought it might be an allergic reaction, and gave me steroids, which also didn't help. The thing that finally made me go to the emergency room and not leave until I had an answer is that I started to develop unexplained bruises on my chest. Turns out I had a huge tumor in my chest which had grown around my heart and was compressing the superior vena cava, so blood couldn't flow back down from my head. Not great. The good news is that it turned out to be very treatable, and I've been cancer free for 11 years now. Super heavy periods that would last for 10 or more days. Got an IUD to help control bleeding. Actually hemorrhaged so bad the IUD came out. Endometrial cancer. Huge tumor in my uterus. Ladies, it's not normal to need a tampon and pad at the same time. It's not normal to need to change them every 10 minutes or even every hour. An average period is 2 to 3 tablespoons. Just for reference. Sorry if TMI. Edited to add. Thank you for the well wishes. I'm 1 year Ned, no evidence of disease. I was diagnosed at 40. I wish I could respond to everyone. The main takeaway is, if something is not right, keep looking for answers in the right physician. Heavy periods do not usually mean cancer in premenopausal women, but there is no reason to suffer through them. Postmenopausal women should not experience any bleeding. 1 drop and you should go to the doctor right away. On Christmas Eve 2018, my dad lost the ability to talk except for the phrase "this is crazy." Called paramedics because we thought he'd had a stroke. Got him to the hospital where the imaging showed a brain tumor on the outside edge of his brain. The swelling caused him to have a seizure. He was transferred to a bigger local hospital. They did full body scans. Because it's pretty rare to just have brain cancer, usually it's a secondary for another cancer site. We got lucky in that it was the sole spot. Went through a craniotomy and 5 rounds of high dose inpatient chemo, and he's 1 year in remission. Thanks for the awards. I had a persistent pain in the middle of my sternum. Doctors thought it was costochondritis, essentially just inflammation of a joint. I stopped working out and lifting heavy things for 3 months, but it didn't go away. Eventually I started having night sweats and random aches. After I fractured my hip, I got an MRI and biopsy, and they diagnosed me with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I got chemo, and I've been in remission for 5 years. Edit. I'm seeing a lot of people describing a similar chest pain and getting scared. Not all chest pain is cancer, and not all cancer is chest pain. I felt the pain in my chest because my tumor happened to be growing there. It could just as easily have grown somewhere else. And my story might have started with describing a persistent pain in the middle of my shin. If you're worried about something, talk to your doctor. My dad was acting strange. He looked disheveled somewhat and was telling the same stories. Well, he's 86. That can come with age. But he was also swerving on the road driving, and he called me one day to take him to his doctor. Long story short, stage 4 GBM, brain cancer. Had surgery, was okay for a couple of months, but was gone a couple months after that. Good part was, had no pain and didn't suffer. Edit. Thank you. My dad thought he had the flu and went to urgent care. By the end of the weekend he had started chemotherapy. He had acute myeloid leukemia. Made it 6 years though, so not bad. I was 17. Getting ready for spring break back in 2010. Was making plans with my boyfriend on the phone because we were going to take his brothers to the zoo in a different city. Literally in seconds there's this big translucent blind spot in my eye that is orange. I can see dark shapes behind it, but it's super blurry. I figured I would just go to the eye doctor before I left the next day, but my sister, who actually works for the cancer center in my city, told me that I should go to the hospital because anything weird with your vision can be super serious. After 36 hours of emergency waits, driving to specialists, they finally admitted me to the eye ward for a bacterial infection. Then they took my blood for a routine blood test. Within an hour or so, as I was getting ready to sleep, a doctor and nurse come in. The nurse has a box of tissues. The doctor told me my blood is leukemic, to which I asked, okay, can I treat that? He was extremely unclear on what was happening. I was 17. My family had already left, and I had no idea about any cancers. I was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia and started chemo that night after being transferred to a different hospital. They did a bone marrow biopsy the next morning and then sent it to a genetic lab in another province. When the test results came back, they changed my diagnosis to chronic myelogenous leukemia in the blast phase crisis final stage that was caused by the Philadelphia chromosome, where chromosomes 9 and 22 switch places and causes a mutation in my red blood cells. Told me I was the youngest person in the world with it, as 950 usually takes a very long time to progress, and the final stage doesn't show until around 65 years of age. That change in diagnosis changed my timeline. They had originally said 6 months to a year untreated, but now it was 1 to 3 months if I didn't get a stem cell transplant or bone marrow transplant. All this because I had blood clots happening all over my body because of the abnormalities of my red blood cell shapes, and the one in my eye presented itself in my vision since the vessels are so small. Edit. I guess I never finished off. I just celebrated 10 years in remission on June 17th this year and I'm healthy. My sister ended up being a 10/10 DNA marker match and I was able to get a stem cell transplant on June 17th, 2010. Still immunocompromised and taking dasatinib everyday chemo pill, but able to live my life. COVID has been really worrisome for me, but I'm just trying to be as careful as possible. Thanks for all the comments. And P.S. I'm a female. The boyfriend was extremely supportive for a teenager and we were together for 7 years before we parted ways mutually. My cat found my cancer and bugged me about it until I went to the doctor. My cat has always liked to lay on me and need part of my body with her paws. For 7 years it was random. Various parts of my body. Then for about 6 months she started to focus on one spot on my chest. At first I chalked it up to her wanting to be closer to my face. But after a couple months I noticed that the spot she was focused on had become very tender. Then I felt a small lump in that spot. Due to my relatively young age, it took me a couple of months to convince one of my doctors that it was a potential issue. But eventually I got tested and had a pretty giant tumor in that spot plus other tumors elsewhere. Yes, Kitty got lots of cuddles, wet food, and greeners as a thank you. Seizures. I got seizures out of nowhere during the night. No history of seizures in my family. Got my head screened and they found what they thought to be a benign tumor. Anaplastic astrocytoma. Diagnosed 2 months before my 22nd birthday. Nearing the 5-year mark, though, with no evidence of it returning. My brother was 11 when he started experiencing symptoms. He started losing a lot of weight, and when he was playing soccer it looked like he was running through mud and couldn't keep up with everyone else. My parents took him to the pediatrician and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. One day, he woke up and couldn't stop throwing up. When he tried to run to the bathroom, he kept running into the door frame and couldn't walk straight. He said the lights were giving him a headache. We took him to the emergency room and they found that he had a brain tumor and had emergency brain surgery the next day. We were extremely lucky that they decided to do a CAT scan at the ER. Apparently they don't usually do them on kids. 2 brain surgeries and a year and a half of chemo later, and he is in remission now. SAP. Unintended weight loss or finding blood where you normally wouldn't. Get yourself to a doctor. My dad was in bed one night and said he felt like he was drowning, then began coughing up blood. Testicular cancer survivor here. I had a dull pain one day in my right testicle. Didn't think much of it. I then took a shower and my ball felt different. It wasn't smooth. I just felt that something was different. I went to my doctor and asked him to check them to make sure things were normal. He did the check and didn't think things felt off, but ordered an ultrasound anyway. I went and did the ultrasound, and I didn't hear what they found. They just asked me to go back for another ultrasound. The next day I got told I had to go to the hospital to see the urologist. Within minutes of meeting the doctor, he told me I had testicular cancer and was having surgery that night. It happened so fast. I caught mine early. Now I tell everyone to feel your balls and know you're normal. I felt a pop in my back. It was actually a vertebra breaking. I had severe pain after, and was later diagnosed with multiple myeloma, a blood cancer. That was 5 years ago, and today I'm in remission. Last year March 2019 I male, 35 woke up in the morning to go to the toilet. I was urinating pure, thick blood with little lumps in it. So after a severe panic attack it began to hurt like hell. I was throwing up from the pain. After a day in the hospital and some scans and tests later, they told me to call my parents. So you know you're getting some bad news. It turns out it was kidney cancer. They removed my right kidney. Fortunately no other treatments were needed, and I'm living the best life right now. If the tumor in my kidney didn't start to bleed I would have found out much later. Probably too late. I was about 12 and I noticed a grey spot in my left eye, so I went to the eye doctor. It turned out to be retinoblastoma. And fast forward about 1 week I had my eye removed and started chemo. And now have a glass eye that has to get redone every 2 years until I was 16.